Hi, Emily from Duet Property. Today's question actually comes from my dad. So I was having lunch with Dad yesterday, and I eventually had to excuse myself and tell him I had to go to an appraisal. And Dad asked me, what exactly happens at an appraisal? What is an appraisal? So this is what happens at an appraisal. A lot of people will ask for a valuation. They mean property appraisal. So a valuation is performed by a licensed valuer and has certain legalities attached to it. So today I'm talking about appraisals, which are performed by registered real estate agents. So I will be contacted by someone who's potentially interested in selling their property, or they might just want to know what the value of their property is today for tax purposes or whatever reason. So depending on the property or the circumstance, I will do it perform the appraisal in two different ways. So I will either go there on the day, perform the appraisal, have a walkthrough and establish value and give them my full appraisal report or opinion on the day. So that quite often happens. I might know the property inside out already. I might have sold the property to them, or I might have appraised the property for them years ago or prior to that visit. The second approach might be if I need to go away and prepare more information. So the property might have less recent sales data similar to that property, or there might be less data I can draw on to establish an accurate opinion on the day. And I might need to even look at suburbs outside that particular suburb that house is in. To come up with a really firm, accurate price for that property. So I might need to go away and work that out. Also, if it's a new build or a newer property, I might want to go away and look at plans, work out per square metre build costs. I might even want to talk to the builder, and then I'll obviously work out the value of the dirt that the house sits on and to replicate that property, what it's going to cost today. And I might need to work out some depreciation there if it's a 2-year-old home or something like that. So that might take me a little longer and I might need to go away and prepare that. So they're the two ways. It's either on the spot, on the day, I will have some sales data with me and I'll be able to establish price then, and then it might be as simple as just emailing them through an appraisal letter. Or secondly, it might be the two-stage situation where I go walk through the property. That might take 15 to 20 minutes, talk to the seller, understand what their motives are, ask them a few questions about how they use the property and why they're thinking of selling and when they're thinking of selling. And then I will return and sit down and have a meeting with them that I always ask people to allow 45 minutes to an hour to discuss. Depending on the seller's situation, it might take longer than that. They might ask me to recommend some improvements for the property and so on. So I did one just yesterday that I was there for 2.5 hours, and that property will be coming to market, but we need to do some work on the property first. So that had a fair bit of detail to that appraisal. How we arrive at the figure. Typically, or most commonly, we will look at properties that have sold recently. So I like to use very recent sales data from 3 to 6 months, or if it's quite a rapidly moving market, upwards or downwards, I'll even shorten that time period and just use 3 months worth of data. And I will find similar properties with similar accommodation, similar condition of the home, similar block size, a comparable location. So if it's on a busy street, I will look at other properties on busy streets. If it's on a quiet street with a view of a lake, I will look at other properties on a quiet street with some sort of aspect to make sure I'm getting very relevant data. So generally there will be homes that I would consider superior to the subject property, homes that I would consider inferior to the subject property, and find a middle ground where that property sits in and amongst those other recent sales. And that will give me a pretty firm idea as to where the market is going to respond to that property and make sure that we're pricing that home correctly to get an outcome from buyers today. There are all sorts of other ways that we might need to appraise property, but that's the most common appraisal method, certainly in the suburbs that I work in the western suburbs. If there's a property that's very unique and quite unusual, that's when we might need to look at other properties outside the suburb that are more similar to that property. So it might be a super architectural home, or it might be a mid-century home where you've got to find a mid-century buyer that's going to pay that little bit more because they love that style of architecture. So if I'm appraising a property in Floreat that's mid-century, I might also look at some mid-century homes in Menora and City Beach and Coolbinia, wherever that particular style of property is, to make sure that I'm definitely looking at the right data and making similar comparisons. So that is how we establish what a property is worth. And if you have any other questions on appraisals or real estate related questions at all, do give me a call or send me a DM. I would love to answer them. Thank you.